as usual, we don't have a formal intro, so again, welcome everyone. We are back with another podcast this week, and as promised last week, if you tuned in, we have a very special guest. Our we are just talking about this before we were recording, and we've known this guy for what, three and a half years now?
Yep.
Um, we're both technically still college students working towards being game developers, and this is actually one of our game dev teachers who we still work with to this day. Professor Jauco, welcome.
Hi, how are you folks? Thank you for having me.
It's a
It is a
pleasure.
indeed an absolute pleasure. So, obviously, David and I have worked with you for a few years now. We know a fair bit about your background, but our viewers don't. I'm one thing that I don't think I've actually ever asked you about is what influenced you when you were growing up?
What influenced me growing up? Well, I'll try to keep it short, but I actually wanted to be a pilot. And long story short, I actually got accepted into the officers candidate school and was going to be a Navy pilot.
Oh, that's cool.
But the situation happened where I guess we can also talk about that. I graduated from UC Davis with um, a computer science and mathematics degree, and they delayed my entrance into officers candidate school that summer for 2 weeks. And it's like, you know what? Why don't I just go and throw out my resume? And sure enough, I got callbacks from two out of the four companies, and then within a week, I was working and decided not to become a pilot. So
Oh,
my
wow.
lifelong yeah, my lifelong dream of becoming a pilot it went out the window.
So, what company did you end up going with?
I worked at a think tank right over in Palo Alto, right off of Page Mill Road there, working for a company called Systems Control Technology, and they were a bunch of PhDs and masters folks creating systems for the U.S. government, and I even had uh, a secret top secret clearance in order
Oh,
to
wow.
go
Hmm.
work there. Yeah,
Wow,
so
you're
uh,
another
that
person I
was
know who's had clearance.
yeah, and was got introduced to. I always loved my graphics course at UC Davis, and got into doing uh, IBM PC graphics, which was essentially doing graphics with uh, text ASCII stuff.
I remember
Uh,
ASCII.
yeah, so we did a logistics system for the Army,
Oh,
and
wow.
I did the front end graphics for that logistics system that ended up being at every army depot and center in the United States, or at least it was a prototype for them.
Oh,
So
it's cool. I'll have
that and
to ask my friend who was in the army and had to deal with logistics and stuff if he ever used it.
no, it's crazy and an important thing because you can imagine how much equipment has to go through the system, right? Let alone
Mm-hmm.
just the stuff on the ground forces versus the stuff that was on the satellites up in the air. Uh, so worked with project management tools on that too. So that was a fun stuff that I got to work with. It was called the Generalized Reliability and Maintainability Program.
So, how did all of this translate into video games? Like, where's the transition?
The transition was it was each step along the way. So um I went and with starting at SCT, I moved over to way back when the big technology was aerospace. And I went over to work for Ford Aerospace, which is a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company, again in Palo Alto, and started working with Sun workstations. When Sun first came out like I want to say 1983. This is sort of the late 80s when I started working at Ford Aerospace, and uh, similarly worked on the workstations to create a satellite command and control system that was going to be used for way back then. There was a system called Star Wars that
I know Star
was
Wars.
being put together. Yeah, and
And not the movies. I know the
the
actual Star
pre
Wars program.
yeah. So the precursor of that was called Millstar, and that's what this system was going to be made for. And so I did the front end and the graphics as well as the interconnect using TCP/IP between all of that. So using uh, the graphic system that Sun was sort of putting together, and was able to use that uh, system to basically put on the screen, all the different waves that come from satellites, and the availability and maintainability of the overall system graphically. So that's where I ended up working at Sun after that.
Oh, wow.
So since being an early adopter of Sun workstations, they pulled me in, and I started working there, and sort of spent a good long time over at Sun working and managing uh, the flagship workstation desktop called uh, back then it was called Campus. Campus 2 is the one that I worked on, which also included graphics on the motherboard, and so I was the product boss for that, as well as the graphics chip group. So, and that's where I got involved with, you know, uh, graphics and 3D, and at the time it was mostly 2D. Um, but that's where my, I guess, majority of my graphics interest ended up moving towards.
Interesting.
So
So
you did a lot of hardware stuff, a lot of chip stuff. When did NVIDIA come into play for you?
So NVIDIA came into play right after working for Sun, and there's actually a really good story along those lines. But I kind of don't want to go into that because it's sort of a longer story. But um, a couple of the engineers that at worked for me at Sun Microsystems started the company NVIDIA, and I moved over and worked for them. So that's where that connection came along, as I, you know, finished up my workstation project. I was on a break, and they asked me to come over, so I came over and started working there, and that's where actually when it comes to video games, I got to work with uh, uh, independent software vendors, specifically uh, Activision and Sega,
Okay.
and the Sega uh, versions of Virtual Fighter and Panzer Dragoon. I got to work with the source code on that to make the those games work on the first NVIDIA chips, which
Nice.
I was also I working with the chief technical officer at NVIDIA. I was in the architecture group and implemented the first C model architecture of the NVIDIA chip slash architecture. So that's where all of my graphics and video game interest started really becoming a thing for me. So that's where learning 3D at the time. It was, fun. Even at one time, we flew out to Texas. I think it was Mesquite, Texas, just to talk to the uh, id folks at id Software, to let them know that, hey, there's something called 3D graphics chips coming out, that's going to work on the PC.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
yeah. So, anyways, but we were able to get Sega's um, s- uh, sort of key arcade type games to work on the early IBM PC, you know,
Hmm.
and compatibles. So that was kind of a cool thing. Um, but anyways, yeah. So that's and then we also did a prototype. I worked on a Mech Warrior 2 with Activision, but that never did get released because the Sega titles were the ones that ended up being the pack-in to the NVIDIA graphics cards.
Oh, wow.
It's
So you
very
were
interesting
really
story.
there from the beginning and saw a lot of the advancements being done. Um,
Oh yes,
what
definitely.
what was your favorite aspect of working with NVIDIA?
Well,
Like, was
besides,
there a specific publisher you liked working with? Was there a specific project that really drew you in, or was it just a overall a enjoyable time, or what was it like for you?
it was great. It was one of a important time for me in the sense that you know getting to work with people that I've enjoyed working with, just that alone was incredible. And from a business standpoint, uh Jensen Huang, who's the chief executive officer there, and one of the main co-founders of NVIDIA, had just a brilliant mind in terms of just business acumen in the hardware world, and having that, you just knew that the company was gonna do well. It didn't start off that way, but it did, you can tell that's, just having, you know, the best people in the world working together on a thing called 3D, was um, just an important thing to me, and was very uh, sort of honored to be able to help foster what 3D is today. You know, Interestingly enough, with NVIDIA, I since obviously have left NVIDIA, and just an example of how great the company is even pivoting from just graphics chips to working with artificial intelligence and AI, right? Using the um, the idea of a general compute system to do these incredible things that has changed the world again, once
Hmm.
again, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I say I use Nvidia as my graphics card still on my computer.
No, I hope so. Yeah.
So after NVIDIA, where did you go? What was on your horizon? What
Yes.
was drawing you in?
Well, I had to leave NVIDIA because of personal reasons, and related to just family. And I just ended up working uh, became the director of 3D multimedia and hardware and software at Fujitsu Microelectronics. Um, and from there it was just more doing sort of consulting work, so that I can actually be home, and did everything from working on the Internet of Things to uh, even implementing um, an artificial intelligence system using IBM Watson,
Oh, wow.
working as the principal architect for a database company. And it was actually pretty cool because back then, this is before you know artificial intelligence, including generative AI. I don't even think that was a term yet. But IBM Watson was the what was the help me with this. What was the Jeopardy? Was it Jeopardy? Jeopardy.
Jeopardy. Jeopardy against Ken Jennings.
Yes, that's him. Yeah, and uh, right, using literally that technology and natural language processing to do a human resources system. So I've done pretty much kind of this whirlwind of stuff, consulting wise, including which is sort of my interest that has been for the past like 5 or 6 years is virtual reality and augmented reality. I even did a prototype for uh, a augmented reality system to train surgeons. So, but I don't know whatever happened to that, and if it ever actually ended up being used. But anyways, I still enjoy working on virtual reality and even working with students in creating virtual reality uh, gaming experiences. And in fact, I'm actually doing one right now with a student. So um,
Speaking of you being a teacher, how long have you been with SRJC and was it Olani College?
yes, Ohlone College in
Um,
Fremont. Yeah, actually started there in 2008. I still do teach at Ohlone. So again, I pivoted from doing consulting type work to just teaching in general. Trying to give back to the industry and helping students go into this profession. And so I was at Ohlone and I helped start up uh, their gaming uh, courses. Once one there was a they tried to start it up, but uh, things happened, and so they hired me to help get it going again. And this was in 2008. And then I started, I want to say at um, Santa Rosa. I gave a talk down at it was the digital media um, instructors conference down in Los Angeles on a talk on a virtual reality system that I did with students that and how I implemented it, and I was able to meet um, uh, Mike Starkey there, and then he asked me if I can come help and help get the program kickstarted at SRJC. And I want to say that was maybe in 2017. So, and then he asked me if I wanted to just stay on and teach there, and I said sure. So, um, yeah, that's kind of when I've been teaching at SRGC since 2017.
oh,
Well,
wow.
we're both glad you decided to stick around there.
Agreed.
Great.
Like your class was really influential on at least me wanting to stay in the industry and learn more and get my degree. I can't
Awesome.
speak for David though.
It definitely was a broadening of my desire to be in the industry. Like that's what I decided to go to school for exactly. And then after his class, I'm like, yeah, I'm hooked,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's great
And
to hear. That's really great
and
to hear.
you've
And
taught
the
us
nice,
both so much about unity and all this kind of other stuff that we've been doing.
yeah, yeah, it's a great industry, and even if you don't end up going into video games per se, the technology is being used in other ways that has become real important in terms of making the world better specifically in areas like the like uh, manufacturing and areas like that where they're using basically gaming technology like Maya and 3D modeling tools
Mm-hmm.
to and virtual reality tools to make it better for say for instance for construction systems and tutorials to teach you know uh, those that use uh, forklifts, say, for instance, and be able to use VR to
Mm,
pretend that
just
they're in that system. You know,
excuse me.
so
Yeah, like
uh,
it's useful for all kinds of training and stuff.
yeah, yeah. So and Unity actually, as a company, has a good, you know, whole area that they really um, try to help, you know, other industries. These, I guess, serious games it used to be called, but you know, using, you know, these other than video game uses for the technology.
Where do you see gaming technology going for the future?
Well, I mean, it'll continue to grow like this, you know, and it could it's like anything else. There's no real revolution of stuff, you know. Way back when there was a thing called multimedia, which I had a title as director of 3D multimedia, that nobody really understood what multimedia was, right? And sort of the same thing when it comes to, you know, this technology. How are 3D going to be used in all these other ways, right? Um, you know, I really don't know. I don't know where it's going to head. Um, you know, there there was some MIT thing that I was looking at where they were putting, you know, graphics technology in, you know, lenses of, you know, what are the contact lenses, right?
Hmm.
And you know, how is that really going to, you know, evolve into an industry? You know, I don't know. I don't know, but it's that kind of stuff that, you know, is going to at least foster other people who might have an idea of how to use it. Um, so I mentioned I like the idea of working with the Internet of Things, and that's basically, you know, automating devices and putting it all on the internet to be able to monitor things like, you know, I'm working on a system for my wife to be able to, you know, do her gardening online, basically, right? You know, does how is 3D going to be able to help that better? I don't know yet. I'm, you know, in the process of trying to see how I can create new tools to help that. So you know, it's, you know, sky's the limit on where this is going to head. And is something that I've actually been kind of looking at more recently is how generative AI type tools are being used for uh, creating better video game characters.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and being able to have a dialogue and a conversation to a non-player character. Can you imagine, you know, you're about ready to fight Ganondorf, and then all of a sudden you're having a conversation with Ganondorf, and it'll feel like you're having a conversation like we're having one right now, except this time you're in your video game.
Oh,
Right.
And
wow.
that, yeah, so that's where I think, you know, the merging, you know, we're talking about, you know, 3D and where 3D is going, but I really think the area that is growing the fastest is this area where they're using, you know, generative AI, large language models to be able to make it so that non-player characters can become better non-player characters.
Right. Like I was looking at some of my Unity assets the other day, and one of them I have is Chat GPT for Unity, so you can have your characters and stuff carry on some more
Yes.
sophisticated conversations than just pre-scripted stuff written by the developers.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, that's and I played with it about a year ago, but I need to get back to it again. Uh, you know, so that's on my to-do list for this year.
I have so many things on my to-do list for this year.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think we all do. Anyone who's in this world of gaming has a lot on their list.
Yes, yes. Uh,
So, circling back around to gaming as a whole, what games did you play early on that helped inspire you to keep going with the gaming industry?
So it's funny you asked that because probably the game that got me started in games in general is was Space Invaders. I was
Nice.
I yeah I teach a history class, and asked them to play Space Invaders, and half of them said they hated the game. You know,
Well, that's because they're spoiled by today's technology of games.
they are, and
Yep.
then well, hopefully I convinced some of them that trying to understand how the game was created.
Yeah, it was
Um,
revolutionary at its time.
it is, just even being doing things like a save and restore of the leaderboard,
Hmm.
kind of thing was sort of a innovation in itself, on an arcade system. But and then moving forward, working, playing Doom, the original Doom, which was a 2D, 3D-ish kind of game, was just incredible. And that
Yeah.
you know, playing that game, was kind of started saying, 3D is going to be here, you know. I want to say that
Yeah,
was around 1992, 1993-ish.
yeah, but
Um,
I remember the original Doom very well. I was playing it as a kid as myself.
yeah, yeah, and I think it
Probably
came on like
before I should have been, but
it came on two or three floppy disks.
yeah,
You know,
it's
a
crazy
lot,
the
lot
size
of
of games nowadays comparatively.
oh yeah,
No
yeah, for
kidding.
sure. Yeah. So and then moving more forward from Doom, getting a uh, uh, a a Nintendo system and playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. That
Yeah,
was that
yeah.
was that was the big one that uh, really got me into taking it more than just killing zombies, right? Or now you've got an adventure that you get to go through, um, and explore and be able to grow from that, you know. So that was sort of the game that expanded my uh, need to play other types of games other than shooters. So
Uh,
but my eyes are bad now, so I can't play those type of games as much as I used to. So I'm kind of just moved over to mobile games, and a game I've been playing quite a bit is uh, puzzles and survival.
yeah,
Um,
you talk
so
about it quite a bit.
yeah,
Indeed, we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So,
It's a fun game.
what kinds of games have you enjoyed developing the most over the years?
It's I've just enjoyed the journey. We've done I mean, even the stuff that we were working on, sort of prototyping, doing the what was the Project Axe,
Yep.
Our little
um
tower defense game.
yeah, just to, trying to learn how to do a tower defense, game, which was sort of the first time worked on one of those. And then same thing with the VR stuff, right? Uh, a project that I had worked on with one of my students was uh, again doing the Internet of Things, and through virtual reality get glasses, be able to control the lighting, humidity, watering system physically, out there, the physical plants, but doing this through VR glasses, VR headset.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
wow.
super interesting.
And it was up and running and working. So, we were showing this at the Maker Fair, and a player would have the VR glass headset on, and with a gamepad, walk around in the VR, which was it was a what was it called, the biosphere, with plants in it, and they'd walk up to a uh, uh, a light switch, in the VR, flick on the light switch, and then the light in the real world, literally in the physical world, would turn on.
Oh wow.
Same, and we also had like a little fountain with water that when they needed to turn the water in the biosphere on, flick that on, and then the water in the real world would turn on.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, and we use a Raspberry Pi as our main server that handled the real-time data from the we used an Android device, that was in the headset to the Raspberry Pi, and using what's called Node.js database to be able to handle the commands and the uh, all the information, the data in real time, to be able to talk to all the devices in milliseconds. So yeah,
That sounds absolutely fascinating.
yeah, we did this. This was back when the Maker Faire was in the Bay Area here. So that must have been maybe 5 years ago. So
Oh wow. Where
it,
is it held now?
well, they canceled it because of monetary reasons, but I think there's one in Vallejo,
Okay.
uh, but I haven't been to it yet. So
Vallejo.
I do intend to go to that one to check it out, since that's basically the only large one in the area now. Um, so maybe you folks should go. Yeah,
I'd love to, but
It would be cool to someday go.
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
one of these days.
We'll all have to go together and have a great time.
There we go. There we go.
Indeed. Just have to get you down from Oregon.
Hey, quit telling people where I'm at.
Hey, we're talking about being in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Um,
You said you only had a short amount of time, so wanted to thank you for stopping by today.
Oh,
agreed.
yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. This was great. I don't like talking about myself, so but anyways, I think what you're doing is great, and anytime you need me to come in and give you an interview, more than happy.
I do have one final question for you, though, if you have a couple more minutes.
Sure.
What is your best advice for anyone, young, old, wherever in life? What's your best advice for anyone who is even remotely interested in getting into this profession?
You know, most people that take my courses, they like video games, so they think that they can come in and um, implement a video game just like that. Uh, Reality is, it's something that, like just about any other profession, you got to have a passion, and be able to uh, enjoy even the stuff you don't like about it, and just be able to have that work ethic to just plug along and go for it, and truthfully, you know anybody, all the students that I've ever had, I believe that every single student can make it in this business. But you just have to have that passion to be able to, um, you know things that you don't understand, learn to understand it. um, you know, and that's not too easy to do. But if you play a video game for 4 to 6 hours straight, that's that passion I'm talking about. And except now you're going
That's a
to be
slow
doing it
day.
to, what's that?
Agreed.
I said that's a slow day.
That's a slow day, right?
Yes,
So
agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
okay, there you go. But that's the point I'm making, is that you can have that passion.
Right.
But you also have to be able to understand that it's more than just the things that you like. It's learning new things, or trying to find the things that you don't that you don't have, that you need to be resourceful enough to be able to gain it yourself, and don't expect anybody to do it for you,
Right.
right? So yeah, so that's kind of the things that I think, and enjoy the process.
Hmm.
You have to do that. So, but yeah. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, like
It does.
for example, neither one of us, Tim or I, really enjoy coding that much, but when you do it and it starts working, that sense of accomplishment and
Yep.
everything is just like so amazing.
Yes.
That
Absolutely.
that's a perfect example. Perfect
Whether
example.
it's coding for a game, coding for a website, whatever language you're using, when it starts working the way you want it to, there's nothing greater.
Well, that's the great thing about this profession too, is that you actually get to visualize and or experience the fruits of your labor. You know?
Yep.
Truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Well,
since you need to get going, you have other stuff. We're just a small part of your week, so it's been great having you here. I hope to have you on again in the future, talk about other topics in the gaming world. Um, any final thoughts, David?
Um, nothing too specific. I mean, I know Tim and I know it, but our listeners, don't you want to share your favorite video game character for everybody?
My favorite video game character has got to be Link, Legend of Zelda.
Yep.
That that'll be for forever.
Yeah.
We might have to
Link's
bring
a
you
good
back
character.
and we might have to bring you back and do a whole episode on your love for The Legend of Zelda.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Well, yeah. Thanks again for stopping by. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, David. We'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Have a good
All
one.
right.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, so everyone, that was an interesting discussion, interview, whatever you want to call it, with one of our professors, Professor Jauco. Um, Very interesting man. Very interesting body of work he's been involved with.
Yes, yes. And a great teacher as well.
Absolutely. Like, literally, I'd started my college career out going down the game design path, didn't know what classes I should take. Look at the classes on the list, and second semester in, I'm like, hey, intro to game design, which is the name of the class that Professor Jauco teaches at Santa Rosa Junior College in Santa Rosa, California. And I was just like, yeah, that looks really interesting. It should give me some grounding, see if I really want to pursue this or not. And after his class, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely in. And that's literally where David and I met.
Yeah, it is. Imagine if I had only
And
taken it a semester later, I wouldn't be stuck with you. I'm just kidding.
or if I decided to take a different class that semester.
Yep. I'm glad we both took that class and met each other there. We've obviously become pretty good friends.
And here we are a few years later, still working with Professor Jocko. We still have projects going with him that we didn't talk about in the main part of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we are both kind of like unofficial TAs for that class he teaches now. We both help out with his stuff whenever his students have questions and everything. So it's good that we still have that communication and bond friendship with him and everything.
Like the
So
fact that he is willing to talk so openly about what he's been involved with, and I feel like in some respects, we only scratched the surface. What a generous, kind individual for coming on our podcast and sharing some of what goes into the world of gaming,
yeah, that's
sharing insights that he has based on his experience
it's a
and what a past he's had with it.
yeah, it's an interesting journey into the world of gaming that he took.
And to think he almost became a Navy pilot instead.
I mean, that would have been awesome for him, sure. Uh, but I'm kind of glad he didn't.
Yep.
But like, yeah, like that's also
That
an
just
amazing opportunity that he had, and I'm sure he would have had a very intriguing life had he done that as well.
so that just goes to show each and every one of you. You never know where life is going to take you. You may think, oh, here's what I want to do.
I mean, when I
Life
was a
hands
kid,
you an opportunity, and
like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pilot too. So,
did you really?
I mean, what little boy didn't at one point?
Um, I wasn't that interested.
Yeah, well, you're a strange little boy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was. In
Look,
all honesty, I'll publicly say I was a strange kid.
okay, like also like we're pretty similar in age, but like I am a little bit older than you, so I'll refer to it this way: what little boy from the '80s didn't want to be at some point? Because
Okay, Top Gun.
exactly. I was just gonna say because of movies like Top Gun and even the spoof ones, Hot Shots and everything. Like the pilot, the military pilot was like the dream job that all little boys had. That and being Godzilla or some type of dinosaur.
By the way, you guys were talking about Doom. I double checked. It came out in December of '93.
93. Yeah.
So I would have only been less than a year old at that point.
Yeah, I would have
Wait,
been.
no, I would have been
I was.
90. Oh, I was almost 2 years old. Never mind.
I was gonna say.
Dur-dur-dur.
I didn't think I was that much older than you because I was close to 10 when that came out. Then, if it was 93,
Yeah, December '93. Dur-dur-dur.
I would have been 8 years old playing
Yeah, so,
Doom. Yeah, yeah, I was probably a little too young to be playing Doom,
yeah, probably.
but it was still fun.
Indeed. I'm sure it was.
Like,
Being how young I was, I definitely wasn't playing it.
I don't think you were playing very many video games at 2. I'm like,
Almost too.
or same difference. Uh, it was a good conversation. I'm glad he was able to stop by. I would definitely love for him to come back and, like you said, talk about Zelda or just share his opinions on video games. We don't always have to grill him about his personal experience on
Life.
everything. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I was glad he went over his history and and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was
Give a foundation so that when he comes back again,
yeah.
everyone has a good understanding of where he's coming from.
And he's just an overall nice guy, man. He's a
Oh,
wonderful dude.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, with that, everyone, like, subscribe, share, comment, ring that bell, and wait for next week's episode. I have no clue what we're going to be talking about. Like, this
Yeah,
one was a big episode for us, so.
I never have any idea what we're going to be talking about.
So,
At least this far in advance during the recording.
yeah.
We we don't completely wing it the day of, but sometimes we do a little bit.
There've been a couple, and I think it's obvious.
Yeah. Anyway,
But this one,
thanks for
hey,
listening, everybody.
yep. So until next week, be well.
Be well. Nanu nanu.